Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Central Library, St. Louis Public Library. Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. For everyone who is not aware of what's going on, this is the Loss of Limb Awareness Panel, and Anthony Taylor is going to be kind of giving you the brief overview of all of who are participating, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Mary Ann Bricky. I'm the director of Central Library. And I am the proud sister of a sister who is an amputee. She's been an amputee for over 20 years. And she and Anthony had actually had some peripheral contact. I'm still trying to get her more in touch with him, but I'm very happy to be at this event and happy to hear about the resources that are in our community to support people with limb loss. If anyone needs to use the restroom, down on this level, it's just down. You exit the room, and then it's down the hallway, and there's also a drinking fountain there too, so feel free at any point you need to get up and use the restroom. We do ask everyone in the room to silence your cell phones. We are recording this session so that we can play it back on YouTube, etc. And those microphones on the stage will pick up any sound that happens in the room, so we make sure that everyone wants to silence their cell phones. That would be a big help. St. Louis Public Library's programming is made possible by the St. Louis Public Library Foundation, and I'm sure Anthony will also give a shout out to all of his other sponsors and helpers today. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's host, Anthony Taylor. Thank you.
Hold on, I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna come back after that. I'm gonna come again. Let's do it one more time for the Loss of Limb Awareness Month. The reason we gonna do it one more time is because I live with this every day. So I do have a great panel. Man, I want to thank everybody that was here to give us resources, because I do not think that I can live life today without the resources that was here. I want to give a huge shout out to the library for allowing us the opportunity to put this on. I know my panelists is nervous. I have paid them $1 million. Oh, let me stop playing that. But I do have a great panel that's going to put on. They're going to educate us. I want you to ask questions, anything that you have questions about. Man, I wouldn't be able to stand here today without the people who was born with limb loss, because that's what give me hope. Also, it give me hope not only to be courageous, but also to live my life with no limitations. In addition to that, that's why I did not complain about my situation of being shut up multiple times. But because of those who was born with it, left me without excuse. Man, I'm going to get it ready for this panel that's going to rock the mic, that's going to make you want to ask them questions. They did put on their best of the best. They smell so good in this green room, I had to walk off and re-spray myself down. So I just want you to see who all on the panel. Some of their names I can't pronounce, but I'm going to let you look at it. But I'm going to call them out. I'm going to get you excited about what they're about to bring. One of the guys, he think he's funnier than me. You know what I mean? He actually made the leg for me. And he probably come out doing some crazy stuff. And we might act a fool, because my goal next year is to shoot a reality TV show. It's called Amputee Lives. So we going to turn this thing up, and we going to have a good time. I did want every seat to be filled. But if I take my glasses off, to me, every seat is filled. I ain't gonna hold it up any longer. But my guy, man, he been serving the St. Louis community and the Loss of Limb community for more than 18 years. Now, he sent me his bio, but man, some of the words he had in that mug, I had to look him up 3 times. I'm not gonna hold it up any longer. He has given back to the Loss of Limb community. He looked better than he did on this picture. I don't know when he took this deal. But I'm going to let Andy come on out. I'm going to let him say a few words, and then I'll call out the next panelist, because I don't want to take from his voice. Come on, my guy, Andy. Let's put out
for coming out. You know, Anthony, he's an amazing individual. You know, we hope tonight that today that we get to educate you guys on anything about limb loss, and hopefully we can give you guys a little experience, a day in the life of Anthony. That's about it.
Oh, man, look, you don't just do that, man. I guess I welcome to the seat, because I was thinking I could have went a little longer. So I'm going to just say a little bit about Manny from my own experience. Man, when I say this man show up for every event I have, I don't care if he just got on some jogging pants and a t-shirt, I know I can count on him to be there. This is the guy that gave me hope when I was in the hospital. And man, today, I'm here to inspire everybody in the room, from my 3-year-old to my nieces and nephews, to anybody that don't know me. Because when Manny walked in the room, he said these words here, I'm going to get you up walking again. If I don't look good today walking on this stage, and I'm worried about falling up off of it, you shouldn't worry about anything that you're going through. Man, Manny, I appreciate you being here, man. When I say these guys show up, I want it to be like Jerry Springer. Oh, he gone now. But that was good. Oh, my bad. I'm just saying, I want, you know what I mean? I want us to be wilding out, you know what I mean? I'm trying to say the man with mine. So, man, I'm going to move right into the panel. I want to, you know what I mean, get them out here. We really want to educate you. I know some of y'all didn't get lunch, so you're trying to get back home to get lunch or whatever that it may be. But, man, we want you to have a good time. We got other people that's going to show up. Man, they told me I had to silence my phone, so I don't know if they texting me or not. Now, Stephanie, like I say, she sent up IL to me as well. So, you know what I mean? I have a pleasure of working with all these people that help us get through life, from physical therapy, to occupational therapy, to trauma surgeons, to meet Maggie. So, man, it would be only for me to only tell you about how Stephanie been doing her job for 17 years in serving the lost and limb community, just giving us hope. Making people like me believe again that I can go back to work, that I can be able to help do the daily things that we take for granted every day, from bringing groceries into the house. Man, I go to the University of Missouri, St. Louis. The walk is not from just the bottom of the East Third to up third. Try walking this whole library 3-4 times to get to your class. So, man, I want you to know that you people you see on this panel is important to my journey. Not only do they support me, but they give me courage. So Stephanie, I'm gonna bring you on out here and let you give yours. Because I don't want to be the voice. Because amputees have many voices. All our stories are different. So let's welcome Stephanie to the stage. So you can say what you want, sit down, however you want to do it.
All right, well,
you want to eat your cookie? No, I'm going to
Anthony took great care of us this morning. I'm really excited to be here and to support the limb loss community. As a physical therapist, I usually help with trying to help people learn how to walk with their prosthesis. So very excited to be here and support this awesome cause, and looking forward to answering any questions you guys have.
I guess I can go behind it. She gonna answer all the questions. Since it's like question and answer, I ain't gonna even ask her questions. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your dedication, your patience. I know, man, your job is not easy. You gotta put up with guys like me walking through the pearl hill, boys. For real, y'all laughing, man. They gotta put up with guys like me. In the beginning of an amputee journey, it's hard. It's, man, they see the ability and the hope in you. They like, you can do it. You get to walking like this. Maybe even told one girl, and I wasn't even, I'm going through a lot of trauma. Then he told her, I'm gonna walk y'all down the way. I'm like, really?
He said the aisle.
Oh, the aisle, okay.
Right. Chill.
Without the prosthesis, without physical therapy, without occupational therapy, I want you to understand, we're just giving you a glimpse of what's going on. I'm gonna continue introducing the panel. Because, man, occupational therapy changed my view of life. Uh-oh. That mother went kind of fast. So, I'm gonna just tell you my experience with occupational therapy. I was a guy that was shot up. Man, I thought I was a fast cat. If somebody got behind me, I knew they weren't catching me. I tried to break back to the car when a bullet was coming and it hit me in the leg. Man, I was in the hospital for 2 months. And they was coming in, they got this new stuff in the hospital where they give you a little cloth and you wash up with it with soap in it. It's called a sponge bath, I guess. I call it a beard bath. But my occupational therapy and rehab, man, they taught me how to brush my teeth again. And I was just thinking like, man, they teaching me stuff I ain't did before. I'm 38 years old. This stuff happened to me at 37. Some of y'all trying to do the math. That's like, boy, now I'm an accountant now. But, to say the least, if you listen to what occupational therapy, what they do on a daily basis, man, all they do is encourage you. What my occupational therapy did for me, I was on a wound bag. I had all these open, ugly wounds and all this good stuff. He put me in the shower, wrapped me up and put me in the shower. Man, I give a huge shout out to occupational therapy, physical therapists, trauma surgeons. Man, I just go to the doctor now just to go sit in the building. But I'm not gonna hold it up no longer. I'm gonna talk about Rebecca. Man, she has given us her knowledge. Not only her knowledge, her expert skills in the loss of limb community. In addition to that, man, she has made it where I can adapt to my new norm. And I don't want nobody to be pigeon. Man, I take a shower standing up. And I got one leg. Don't be laughing. But Rebecca, I'm not gonna hold it up any longer. I'm gonna bring her to the stage and let her voice be heard. Let's give it up for Rebecca.
I'm excited to be here. I've been an occupational therapist working alongside Stephanie at an outpatient day program for over 10 years. We specialize in prosthetic rehab. I've been lucky to work with amputees working on prosthetics of the arms and legs. So let me know if you guys have any questions. In OT, we work a lot about getting back to activities. So that can be working, getting dressed, making sure they have adaptations to be able to wear the clothes they want to wear. That's always a big thing with our amputees, is getting back to their fashion and their style and what shoes they want to wear. So let me know if I can help with anything. And excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm a firm believer in this. Now, before I start the panel, I'm gonna ask my panel something, because I know that's kind of odd. I guess they left a seat for me. We do have people on the way. They texted me now. I mean, when you're a doctor, you know how a doctor is, right? You don't know when they're gonna come in the room. But you be sitting 15 minutes on a doctor's appointment. They come in for 2 minutes and say, "Oh, that's it." But he'll be here. I promise. He texted me. I had to text him back some hearts to tell him I still love him. How about that, Phil?
Very
Great.
good.
Let me ask you this. You nervous? Look at him. He texted me yesterday, I'm born ready. So man, as the panel continue to arrive, we gonna jump into it because I really am just a person that went through it and learned a lot. And I wouldn't be able to learn a lot without the help of them constantly consistent being here for me. The biggest thing that I want everybody to walk out this room with today is support. Man, without support, man, this journey will be impossible. Oh, man, look at my dude, man. I love you, man. I was just talking stuff about you. You know how to get me, don't you? So this ought to be Dr. Just walk to the back. I'm gonna get a.
No.
You actually get next, man. I saved you for the list. So this Dr. Punch, man. So what I'm gonna do? I appreciate you, man. So Dr. Punch is man, just kind of talk a little bit about your background and what you do to kind of help individuals like myself.
Turn this on. Is it on? Yeah. Look, it's not the first time you ever had to wait for the doctor. Listen, my apologies, I just ran out of clinic, but thank you for the invitation, and thank you, Anthony. My name is Dr. LJ Punch. I'm a trauma surgeon, and I run the Bullet-Related Injury Clinic and the T. They're two free community healing clinics focusing on the issue of trauma. And after 2 decades of working on people's bodies who had been deeply impacted by trauma, I recognized that I could sew people up with gold, but it wouldn't make a difference in their healing because healing is from within. And so now I run clinics that focus on connecting people to their own healing power. And it's been exciting to meet Anthony and become part of the AMP Connects family. So appreciate being able to be here today.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of let them kind of educate us. Because before you bring awareness to anything, you gotta be educated about it. You know what I mean? I can sit up here and be proud of where I'm at because last year I can transition from a bed to a chair. Now I can do it pretty smooth and you won't ever even think I'm an amputee. So, they're gonna try to give us education, then we're moving to questions and answers. Man, we wanna make this, your time, worthwhile. But before I move into my panel, I'm gonna ask the question again. How y'all feel?
Amazing.
And they smile for me, make me feel good. For my amputees that's in the building, what's up, baby? Let's make some noise. What would the new norm? Man, I appreciate y'all, man. Because nobody knows what it's like for us. Man, I want to build a community where, man, you can come in, you throw your legs, and you just chill and relax. I'm about to turn this thing over to my panel and let them rock this thing. If that ain't as loud as me, y'all let them get loud. Let's give it up for my panel. Go ahead and rock this thing.
There's so many fresh.
Does anybody have any questions? So before I start.
We do, but we'll wait till you start.
All right. I guess I'll just start at the beginning with regards to an amputee, right? So usually a surgeon will call me, and in Anthony's case, and she was like, I have a young man that traumatic gunshot that needs a prosthetic. So you go in, you don't know, you try to meet the person where they're at, right, mentally, and you could tell that he was hurt, okay? And then my goal is always just to give an amputee hope, right? I'm blessed, I have both arms and legs. I don't know what it's like to go, you know, they say walk a mile in somebody's shoes, right? I can't walk one step, right? Because I don't know. But I try to give them the hope and the encouragement that they can have a normal life. It's just going to be a little different. It's a new life. It's they have to put their prosthetic on before they get up and walk, right? That's something that I will today I don't feel that, right? Because I don't have to go through that. So I met Anthony, and Anthony was very cool about the whole situation. And I was like, listen, at some point you have to break down and learn to accept it. And it was shortly after that. His energy was, I gave a presentation with Anthony this week at Ameren, and they showed a video of a young man jumping up and down at a Cardinals game. That's his energy before the amputation. It still continues to be that today, which is amazing. The challenges from him after he was fit, it's the healing process, right? Most amputees could probably heal, traumatic amputees probably heal anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. Unfortunately, he had severe wounds, and it took him a long time to heal. But once he's healed, that is when I can start the process. And fitting the prosthetic is probably the most simple part of the whole process, because we fit the residual limb, and then it's the amputee's work to get, they have to learn to walk again, and that's stuff that we take for granted, right? We don't think about walking. They have to relearn to walk, and that's where the rest of the panel here, that is when the hard work, it's the amputee and the
therapists that train them. So that's my spiel on most amputees.
Move right along, we just continue to educate them. We just gonna educate them right now. We ain't gonna let them jump in, then y'all can go back and do whatever, baby. Let's, you know, we finna have fun this time.
Sounds good. As a physical therapist, as Manny mentioned, we really enter immediately following the amputation. So at that point in the game, we're working on pain management. How do we help control the pain from the surgery? We are working on making sure that we can help that wound from the incision heal up so that eventually we can get that prosthesis on the limb. And then we kind of start into how do we build up strength and endurance and make sure the leg moves in all the directions it needs to move so we can get back to walking. So it's a process, and it's not always the same for every amputee. Sometimes that takes a lot longer before we can get a prosthesis on their leg, and sometimes it goes really quick. So it really depends on the healing process and how everything goes. And then once we get that prosthesis, that's where the hard work begins, like Manny said. That's where we're working on getting them back and walking and tolerating standing on a prosthesis. Imagine you're wearing like a plastic encasing around your arm or your leg all day long, and now we're having to put weight through that. That's kind of how I imagine it. As Manny said, I've never had to do it. But it's a new experience for patients who have lost their limb, and they've got to learn now, how do I function again? So that's where therapy comes in, and we really try to kind of help them through that whole process, learning to stand on it, learning to walk on it. How do we use this leg every day in our life, and how do we get back to life and functioning as we would have before as much as possible? And as Rebecca said, I work very closely with OT, so I think I'm just going to pass it right along to her, and she can fill in the rest.
Yeah, we cover a lot of similar areas. So in OT, we're also working on standing balance, seated balance, core balance. A lot of times, just because the healing process can take many months, sometimes, we have to go back to the basics of seated balance, making sure that the center of balance hasn't shifted too much from maybe different walking styles without the prosthesis during pre-prosthetic training. A lot of times in occupational therapy, we are standing and walking, but with a goal to do activities. So that can be getting back to work, making sure our amputees can get supported with return to driving. Hobbies are a big thing. A lot of times in the outpatient setting, our amputees are ready to get back to the fun stuff, And so sometimes it's a discussion of what are some leisure things that you did before that we want to get back to now, and how can we kind of adapt different activities to make life, fulfilling and to have your plate full again. So it's a very exciting opportunity to work every day with amputees. I know dressing is always a big thing, depending on the time of year, making sure folks as they go back to work can check on sock ply throughout the day. That's always a process because I can't always determine how many socks they need or how it should feel, because that's a personal journey that the amputee is learning about how should that prosthetic feel, what's the right fit, and so forth. So it's a nice collaboration and team approach in my setting that I really appreciate, because we're frequently talking to the prosthetist, the PT, the OT, making sure we're all on the same page, especially with building up tolerance. If they're having wounds, we're contacting the doctor to make sure, that all areas are covered as they go through the rehab journey.
Okay, so, I don't know, maybe I should have gone first, because I have been the surgeon who did the procedure and had to then heavily rely on a team like this to have someone be able to heal and walk again. I've done more amputations than my soul can really bear to recall. Like, I've removed so many arms and legs, fingers, toes from people whose bodies were impacted by everything from diabetes to car collisions to bullet injuries. And every single time it happens, whether it's planned and there's an opportunity to discuss it, or it's unplanned, and Anthony can back me up on this, it's a little tiny death. It's real. It's really heavy. It's that deep. Because when someone cannot continue as their whole embodied self, they have to grieve that loss of that and truly step into a new normal. And it's interesting because for a long time, when I was practicing as a trauma surgeon and an emergency general surgeon inside large hospital systems, I felt completely unable to go beyond the grief. I caused the grief, and I never had a way to help people mourn and step into, literally, what it would mean to be whole again. So for me now, to be working in a space where that is the entire thing I focus on, people's wholeness and their healing, it has been healing for me in many ways. And I think about how much loss I've witnessed. But here's the wild thing. I just want to share some academic thinking about this. So there's a study, a really big study. I'm sure you all know it, the LEAP study, that looked at the outcomes of people who lost or who had a severe injury to their leg, whatever the reason was, and whether or not they had tons of surgery to be able to save their leg, or whether or not they had an amputation. And the idea was that there was going to be a profound difference in how the rest of people's lives were if they went through a lot of surgery to save their leg, or if they had an early amputation, that would produce wildly different trajectories for people. Because as we've already just said and recognized, losing a limb is so devastating. But in fact, they did not, in terms of pain and depression and function. And the only thing that actually mattered into whether or not somebody was able to get back to the life they wanted to live or had a lifetime of suffering because of the injury was whether or not they had a supportive family. But that's wild to me. And teams like this and communities like AMP Connections are exactly that supportive family that people need no matter what. And I think it goes to Anthony's point that with the right mindset, right, and with the right support, someone can return to a life that's completely whole and maybe even stronger than the life they were living before, because the loss of limb is not the end of life. And it's really neat to think about what it means to change that narrative and to help the loss of limb community recognize just how much power they have to be whole and well. So again, I just really appreciate, and I'd love to answer anybody's questions about what that's like, or what that loss is like, and how people navigate it, especially up front. But I really think that what we're doing right now, is actually more important than anything that happens inside the hospital. So this community growing and getting stronger is just super, it's awesome.
Well, thank you to the panel. Man, we gotta do better than that. They just gave us some things. They gave you something that they do every day in 5 to 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have them expound a little bit on some things, because I still have some questions. So Manny, I know you say you don't know what it's like to walk with a prosthesis, and you a prosthesis, right? Prosthesis. I mean, I'm gonna count this up. Okay. Probably can't speak at all. Question for you. So I know you see this every day. Do you feel like you desensitize yourself, or could you expound on, like, just seeing this, like, you know what I mean? I know you help us, you give this hope, and man, I ain't gonna lie, you the coolest cat I know. I got your name saved 3 times on my phone under different numbers. Let me stop before I get in trouble.
Am I desensitized? Absolutely not. You know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I still get emotional when an amputee walks for the first time. You know, whatever their goal is. Sometimes their goal is as easy as going to the bathroom by themselves, right? Or walking to the mailbox. Or, you know, every amputee has their own story and is a different story. And it doesn't matter, you know, sometimes I think, personally, in being in the field 25 years, I think it's harder to fit a traumatic patient than it is somebody from a diseased leg, right? Because as Dr. Punch was saying, you know, the person with a traumatic amputation, they don't have the time to see, they haven't seen the leg go through the disease process, right? So sometimes a traumatic amputation, the fitting is more of a challenge. But with that said, I love what I do. I tell people I've never worked a day in my life because it is so rewarding just seeing amputees walk for the first time, you know, and I have this connection that, you know, the resources that we have. Every patient has my cell phone number, and I can't tell you how many have called me for weddings, for a barbecue, for this or that. And and unfortunately, at the end of the road, right, the amputees die, and how many funerals I've been to that they're like, oh my God, this was the leg band, this was the leg band, this is the guy. You know, everybody talks about the leg guy, you know, and it was like that. And at the funeral, I'm like, oh my God, you know, so it is, you know, it's very impactful, you know, being part of an amputee's life, because it's not easy. You know, I can just give one example just with Anthony. We fit him with a new style of system, and it didn't work the first day. And he calls me, and I see him the next morning, and we changed something on it. And he's been fine ever since. But it's that. You have to have a connection with your team, right? You know, his surgeon, and I'm truly blessed. I work with amazing surgeons that they call me before the amputation to talk to the patient. They call me right after the amputation. Hey, this gal is going to need some extra encouragement, right? Or whatever the case is. So having a huge collaborative team approach is amazing, you know, and you know, my practice, we treat every amputee as family. Like, they come in, and even when they don't have an appointment, sometimes they just come in, you know, and I'm like, okay, you know, and it wasn't probably not even to see me, really, you know, like, we have a huge, amazing team, you know, from the people that fabricate the legs. I mean, they're true artists. Like, they do amazing freaking work, right? So, but am I desensitized? Absolutely not. I love this. I love this.
So I'm gonna say something for me. It's the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's the relationship. Everybody on this panel, man, even we email once or twice, or whether they host the event, you know what I do? I show up. Man, I appreciate them showing up. I mean, I'm gonna say this, let you expand, just your experience. I know, like I say, man, when you do something so long, man, if you don't have a passion for it, it becomes simply a job. Each one of them, I could just say, man, they make me feel like I'm just loved every time I come in the building. And so, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm appreciative. I wish I could just break down and cry for just the strength they give me every day, and it's the reason I do it.
Well, he not.
Just, like I said, just expound a little bit, just on, you know what I mean? Just, physical therapy do a great time. If they don't push you to, like, you want to jump off the edge of this stage, when I say they push you, like, you can do it, I'm like, sure. Man, just kind of expound just on the, man, the team here give you that hope.
Thanks. So to kind of expand on what Anthony's saying there, so it is a lot about motivating our patients on a regular basis and finding out what it is that motivates them. Sometimes what excites me about my weekend is definitely not what might excite other people about their weekend. So finding that motivating factor for them, oftentimes it's family, oftentimes it's family events, but really getting that connection, as we've kind of been talking about, that connection with the patient, the person that's going through the loss, and understanding it's their rehab and it's their journey, and it does not really matter what my goals are for them. It does not matter how far I want them to walk or how I want them to walk. It really is all about what motivates them, what they want to be able to do, and how they're going to get there is through that motivation. And so really working together, like as we said, as a team, and really being all on the same page with how we're all going to get to that person's goals is kind of the most important thing that we focus on every day.
Thank you. Man, I heard a lot. She said a lot. But I think the most important thing, like I said, man, it's the relationship. Relationship with everybody you come in with. Because, man, if I don't do the work, if I go home, they gonna know what I'm faking. I'm gonna just be honest with you. Man, I cannot pop up in his office and I ain't did nothing with the running leg. He gonna be like, how you know it don't work, bro? Just as I'm learning to walk again, they learning too. They new to whatever I go through. If a spot show up on my leg, I'm probably in draws touching him like, bro, I don't know what this is. So, man, I'm going to say this just my day-to-day affairs. I got to keep in touch. So if you know somebody that haven't seen the physical therapy, occupational therapy, or a need to be reevaluated, man, these are the resources in place. It's for each of us in the room to help somebody. Man, I want to see more people independent, doing their own thing, regardless of how it may be. Man, occupational therapy, man, y'all do it for me, man. Y'all gave me that shower. So, you know, like I said, expound on just when it is that challenge. Because one of the things I want to learn how to cook. I'm still the keys for a minute, man. I know we on camera, you ain't gonna trip. I see it because on Jerry show. So, one of the things for me learning how to cook before it take a minute to get a prosthetic. It ain't like it's gonna be when you get your leg chopped off, the doctor punch come and chop your leg off. They come to throw you one right away. It take time. And so, one of the things that they showed me, I'm the best egg cooker there is. So, you gotta transfer this pot from off the stove to the zinc. So how do you do that? Just think about, I ain't got my prosthetic on, and I gotta get this to there. So I'm on the walker. So what they told me to do, get a tray. So I had bought a little tray off Amazon, put it on the walker. And now you gotta think about, this pan still hot. Even though I got all my dishes and stuff on this walker and I'm moving across the thing, I gotta still get this to there, right? So what you do? You stand on your walker, you move your walker ahead, and you get tired when you become an amputee. You find talents you don't know you have. And you put a glove over it up, and you move. It take a little time, but this just showing that we live our life with a new norm. And we don't let nothing stop us. Anybody in this room as an amputee know that I'm saying, we don't care. You can look at these guys, you can pull up on them. Man, if they determined, I bet you we gonna get it done. I pulled up by myself, driving. Because, man, it's because of the work Mandy do, Stephanie do, Rebecca do, and Dr. Punt. So,
I thought so when they started driving. I would hop right in the passenger seat.
so she's just going to expound a little bit on the work she do every day.
So we do a lot of cooking at the clinic that I'm at. We have a full kitchen, which is utilized usually on a daily basis for cookies and all sorts of sweets that the clients want to go and make. We use a lot of adaptations depending on what they need to get back to cooking. We have a lot of different adaptive equipment, especially for the arms, to help with chopping, cooking, meal prep, and everything. We do a lot of community outings. I have a great memory one time of walking with the amputee across our parking lot and over to Target from our clinic, which is probably a 10-minute walk or so. So it's just really cool to see on my side of things, people getting back out into the community and kind of choosing what they want to focus on with rehab. We also work closely with vocational rehab, so they're an excellent resource in Missouri. They'll come out and meet with clients, or they have offices where our clients can go meet them to talk about going back to work part-time, full-time. We work closely with vocational rehab in Missouri, and then also with driving specialists. So there are many driving specialists in the St. Louis community where they'll help with adaptations as needed. They'll help train on any hand controls or to move pedals. If any of our clients need training, they specialize in that and have all the cars set up and ready to go. So they're a great resource to reach out to whenever amputees are ready to get back on the road.
Thank you so much. Think about it. The things that we take for granted, it's the things that we have to relearn. So everybody that's sitting out here, I know you probably think like, man, I didn't know all this happened. Man, I can't tell you how many times I put my pants on wrong or put the wrong shoe on the prosthetic. I just gotta laugh and be like, man, this crazy. So, you know what I mean? Even getting dressed, sometimes can be a challenge. So, you know, here's the reason that I really want to bring awareness to. I can't wait to really have the reality TV show to show you how we get down. Because some of us is creative. Some of us can do some things I didn't even think I can do. But I'm going to bring it to the man that chopped this thing off and let him expound on, you know what I mean? Because, man, even though an amputation could be a bad thing, it's also a life-saving thing. Think about it. And I was shot up. This amputation changed my life. I wouldn't have met Manny if I wouldn't have got this amputation. I'd have been here with my account button. We would still be staying up to 5 o'clock while I still didn't know he was talking about a debit or credit. Now I got Manny, we talking about amazing things. He challenging me. He giving me resources. He helping me live my life. And now that I got it back and I'm working, then I meet Dr. Punch. They help me reach the stars. Then I get Stephanie, I go to her event and she just showed me all the love in the world. Then she introduced me to Rebecca. And here we go. And they all up here to support me. But let me bring it to my man. Voice deeper than mine.
So it's interesting. One of the things that I really came to learn over the couple of decades of work I did was what actually happens to someone when they are shot. And this is whether or not they have loss of limb, because in every instance, there is a temporary, at least, loss of life. Bullet injuries are most characterized for me, again, after looking at this over a long time, by communicating to someone's body that they're not safe. And that makes two really important things happen. One, as their body moves through people and places, they don't trust anybody, but it also changes their relationship with their body themselves, that they don't trust themselves. What I mean by you don't trust yourself, it's that lack of confidence, that lack of knowing, that uncertainty, that something moved through the air and hit your body and threatened your life. Now you're not quite so sure that you can be you. And so one of the most important things that I think Anthony's story shows me is what it is for somebody to be able to trust themselves again, right? So the book that Anthony wrote and the concept of creating a path to closure, y'all know, I mean, I have been working on this for a really long time, and the first time we sat down and talked about this idea of closure, I'm like, where did you get this from? How did you so clearly understand the steps that you needed to take to have closure and then trust yourself again? That is all coming from inside Anthony in this beautiful, amazing way. And so we're sitting here and he's talking about what we have brought into his life, but I'm telling you, I have learned something about how to help anybody who has been shot from watching the way he has brought closure and created a new life for himself. And that is the power of healing and community. And that's what I think we're talking about, different versions of the same thing. So for my day-to-day work, it is to do that, is to tap people into the power they already have to heal themselves. And every single time somebody does that in front of me and in front of my team, we learn something. Jacob is here. Say hi, Jacob. He's on my team at the Bullet-Related Injury Clinic, and he's learning all these lessons with me. In other words, there's a lot of things in medicine and healthcare where we're like, okay, I'm the expert. I'm the one that chops off the leg. And so, according, I guess that's my thing today. And I'm the one who knows, and I prescribe, but it's no. You are an expert in you, and all of you are an expert in you. And my job, and the work that I'm falling in love with, the work that's helping me not get jaded, right, is every single person who presents their body to me is saying, I want to get well, and I just need your help to help me get well. And my message is like, you already have it. I'm just here to help you find it. So that flipping the switch in that way is what keeps me going. Because if everybody has the power to heal themselves, then I can go to work every day knowing, right, that we're moving in the right direction. And that encouragement is how I sustain.
Thank you again, man. He ended with a good note. We all got the power to heal ourselves. We will move into questions and answers. I want to thank the panel for their knowledge, their experience, for the work that they continue to do as we continue to bring awareness to the loss of the limb community. But I want to really state this. I think this is important. That we stand on the shoulders of our friends and family and the resources for me to live a life without limitations, but with a new norm. I think that is huge. Without my family, without my friends. So I want y'all to give a huge hand clap for Premier Prosthetics, for those who are here for Premier Prosthetics. I don't want to go without, before we move into questions and answers, without acknowledging, you know what I mean, the people that support me, his wife and his kids. Thank you so much for coming out and letting me have a part of me all the days that I get to have. I appreciate it. And for those that support any of the panelists that's in the room, man, thank you for letting me utilize them. Pick their brain to teach me to continue to be a part of my journey. For the time that they sacrificed, because, man, we know that all another time. Also, just thank you for just being here. Dr. Punch, man, you do amazing, man. I mean, I joke around about when you do respond, it be right on time. I just want to tell you this. Thank you, man. I appreciate you answering my email. I want to give a huge shout out to the library and your staff. They have been amazing. They have been wonderful. I wish I could give each and every last one of them a gift. And eventually, I will have the power to be so. The second I get an opportunity, your staff, I did nothing but took care of us. And to the F Connection team and my family and friends, man, thank you so much for showing up for me. Because, man, I was stressed out. Maybe started grabbing on one leg. No. Man, I want to give y'all something for participating on the panel. This is going to be from Cooper's Hawk. I'm going to have each one of you one of them. Because you know, time is everything, right? And if we don't have time, we don't have nothing, right? And the only time left is when we spend it together. So I want this my appreciation. This is my thank you to you. Again, you guys do a wonderful job. Somehow I lost that on you did it, man. No, you didn't, man. Hold on. I got some more.
I still haven't been to this fancy restaurant.
There you go. And I got these for you. We're going to move into questions and answers. Because I ain't trying to take them up there. You sure how coordinating. I was afraid to sit in the green room with them. I'm like, oh my God, I got doctors, surgeons, prosthetists, all in the same room. And then here comes little old me hopping around. I'm trying to satisfy them. I'm bringing these bag sandwiches. I'm like, eat something. You ain't bring that cookie that night, did you? If you had one of the UPSA bags, man, somebody specially made cookies for us. And I'm so thankful for the people that take care of us. So, man, let's open the floor up for questions. If you don't have a question, it's okay. But this is the time to ask somebody something that I don't have the answer to. So if you want to know about the prosthetic and how many hours, I will call on you. If you want to know how everybody loves your daddy, I will call on you. So I really want to hear a question from you. I know you say your sister amputee. I'm not trying to pick on you or anything because you have been nothing but good to me. Every time I'm stressed about something, you say, I already got it, Anthony. So.
Well, just from my perspective for the occupational therapist and the physical therapist, how often are you referring people to swim therapy or swimming as a means of coping with their new normal and their new limitations? Because for my sister, that is where she feels whole. Because she can swim just as well with one leg as somebody can with two. Nobody's looking at her different because she has a slightly different gait. She just feels at home in the pool, and I know that for her healing journey, that was such a big piece.
Absolutely, that can definitely be an awesome tool for them, and we do utilize swim as a therapy both during our therapy sessions, and unfortunately not in our own clinic, but for after they're done with our therapy and can move on to a more recreational-based or community-based therapy. It's definitely something we refer to. Obviously, each individual's a little different, and each amputation looks a little different. Some people do have a little bit more trouble swimming afterwards and need some adaptations, and we can kind of get with a prosthetist to come up with some tools for that. But swimming can definitely be an area that can be a great resource for our amputees after therapy and in conjunction with us.
And helpful with pain management too, just a different weighted environment and not so much pressure on certain areas of the body. We hear a lot of good results when we pair up with either aquatic therapy or just getting them back to the YMCA or a community resource for swimming.
Go ahead, man. Stand up and say your name. That way, man, I want you to feel just as important as me standing up here.
My name is Jacob. Like Dr. Punch said, I work alongside him with the brick. And my question is, I know a lot of times people that have recently gotten amputation are frequently told that they're not going to walk again, they're not going to do, whatever, whatever again, right? But lo and behold, frequently they challenge that, they surpass that. And I guess my question is, what is the prediction, cost, risk analysis that people do where frequently they're told that you're never going to do this again? Is it just rooted in conservative prediction as far as we don't want to get people's hopes too high? Is it because of the true time, labor, and cost intensive process that this goes into? Is it the whole mental block that people are talking about? I'm kind of interested in is that really as frequent of a story as it truly is in my head as far as hearing that time and again? Or I don't know what your perspective is for that.
So I'll tell you a little story. A long time ago, I had a bilateral above the knee amputee, and I sent him to therapy right before we started with his prosthetic. And his therapist told him, "Why are you even trying to walk with prosthetics? You could be very independent at a wheelchair level." And that patient came to me, and he's a dear friend of mine, came to me damn near in tears. And as soon as I got done that day, I went to that therapy place and I said, "I will never, ever send you another patient." I can't fathom that. I hope it doesn't happen, but nobody should put a ceiling or limitations on any person, right? There are some challenging individuals that we fit with prosthetics that it's and I always tell them, hey, if you're willing to put in the work, I'll make you the leg. But if you're not willing to do the pre-therapy and do all that, then it makes no sense in me making a prosthetic. But if that individual wants to put in the work, I'll make them a prosthetic all day.
I definitely see the medical community frequently lying to people. Or if I say it nicer, making very, very conservative, limited predictions. And I think it's because inside the resources that traditional healthcare can provide, that is all they can say, because it's not equipped for that healing that happens next. And I think, again, Anthony's story and the stories I've seen in many people is that, just like you said, there is no ceiling for what can happen in community. But what the objective measurement that people can make based on what they can provide people with, and it is unfortunate, because those messages of you're not going to do this, you're not going to have that, are some people stay inside those messages, and they're like, well, that's it then, and they don't have the support to push past that. So it's for us to be to advocate and be responsible, and really push back against the way healthcare limits the possibility of healing for people.
And also, I try to do a very good job at educating the surgeons I work with, and they understand prosthetics. They understand that the advantages, at the end of the day, it comes to quality of life, right? So if you have somebody with a diseased leg and it's now their activity levels are going down because they don't want to walk because it hurts or this or that, and then they get amputated, they get healed, and they're successfully fit with a prosthetic, now their quality of life is back, and they're over the moon. There's somebody in this room that has texted me videos of them doing amazing things, and that at some point, but it's the work that the amputee does, right? And it's their goals that they want to set for themselves, so it ends up being a quality of life issue,
And it's never too late. I gotta chime in with that, because we get clients sometimes that are referred to us for something totally different than prosthetic training or the amputation. It may be years down the road. And a lot of times, if they come in as an amputee, we say, well, do you have a leg? Do you need a prosthetist? How can we help you learn to walk if you didn't do that as an amputee? And sometimes I think clients can need a little bit of time before they're ready to take that on, and that's okay too. It doesn't hurt to try. Even years later, we've seen some amazing recovery and progress. It's super exciting, when we get a client that maybe didn't anticipate to walk again or try out the prosthesis, and now they're ready to. It's a very exciting journey to get those referrals too. So it's never too late to try. And we see clients sometimes where they're like, yeah, I have a prosthesis. It's, 5 years old at home. And we're like, dust that thing off, bring it in. We'll figure out how we need to get it modified or what needs to happen. But it's cool that the journey never really stops, even if there's pauses or, maybe they're not ready to try the prosthesis at first. They can always try later on.
So, Ann with the red sweatshirt.
So I had a question for Dr. Punch and Manny. What happens, Manny, to the prosthetics that people can't use anymore? Like Anthony's first one that didn't work, do you donate it to someone that it can fit? And Dr. Punch, what happens to the parts that get cut out? Do it get donated to science?
Well, I can answer that quickly. And it actually, it goes along with the fact that it is a little tiny death. And so that is usually honored by going through a process of being evaluated by a pathologist who looks and makes sure there's nothing that the person would need to know was in that part of their body that got removed, and make sure that there's nothing unusual that would mean something for what the person would need to do next in general, right? And then those are not, I have never been part of just one, like usually if somebody donates their body, it's their whole body, even though people might work and learn from donated bodies in different ways. But also, I know for some cultures and some faith practices, it is a really big deal to lose an arm or a leg. And I have worked with chaplains to help people navigate that and what that meant for their walk spiritually. It can be a really, really huge deal. And for that, there is a process that can be honored for the individual if they lose an arm or a leg, but that needs to be part of it needs to be observed in a very specific way based on their faith practice.
Regarding the prosthetics, so that interface that goes on amputee's residual limb is unique to that individual, right? So that can't not be fit on anybody else. But we align ourselves with other nonprofits that do mission work. So for all the feet and the knees that we get or any unused components, we just donate it to them and they do mission work and fit people in underserved countries.
To the Army?
Huh?
Do any of your prosthetics go to the people in the Army?
No.
Overseas and stuff?
No.
And they get to receive?
No. When they get amputated, there has been a huge shift in care for veterans that now finally they are getting what they deserve for losing a limb in battle. They used to not put. Now they put the latest and greatest things on them, I mean, God bless them for serving the country and losing a limb, right? And so now finally they are getting the top of the line stuff.
Yeah, I worked for a year at the Baltimore Veterans Hospital, and this was 20 years ago, and it was tough to get that kind of support, not just for the physical injury, but for all of the emotional and psychological injuries that went along with it. But there is a profound new awareness in the military of the need to address at every level those deep injuries. And actually, it's interesting because we're learning more about how to take care of people who are hurt in civilian settings because the military is learning so much about how to support people who are hurt in military settings.
You go first and then, yeah.
All right, my name is Brian. I work with the Village Path. We provide free mental health services to Black men. My question is about the financial ramifications. I was talking with Anthony earlier before the panel about how expensive some of these parts are. Not only just the parts, but physical therapy could be expensive, and insurance only covers a certain amount of it. What do you think could be done about this, because it's really expensive. It's talking about tens of thousands of dollars sometimes.
Right. Prosthetics, unfortunately, I think we need more access with healthcare, right? And that is a huge battle that we, I think half my job I spend fighting insurance companies on why an amputee needs a prosthetic, right? And it's unfortunate because it delays their care, right? So on a first prosthetic, let's say I try to get a patient this, if the insurance company comes here, I accept it. Why? Because I don't want to delay their care. I want them to get fit with the prosthetic as fast as we can, so they can start their rehab, so they can start their new normal life, right? And then afterwards, once the prosthetic no longer fits, that is when I will fight tooth and nail to why they deserve it, right? And patients also have to be their own advocate, and there's a patient right next to you, sitting next to you, that she was her biggest advocate for advanced technology. Her insurance denied it and she fought it, and she has it, so, yeah.
My name is Beautiful Badass Gabby. I want you all to ask Manny how he met me.
So every amputee, they have a special place in my heart, but I don't think I've ever been cussed out by an amputee the very first day. And Beautiful Badass Gabby cussed me out.
No, I apologize to everyone.
She did.
Also, we need to get with, if you don't have insurance and you're on Medicaid, I'm gonna tell you right now, pardon my French, it sucks. They don't want to pay for anything. We need to get together and advocate and go after Medicaid and Medicare.
You are correct. However, it's the bigger insurance companies that are the bigger problems, the Aetnas, the United Healthcares. They deny, Aetna will not pay for a microprocessor prosthetic if you are amputated because of this vascular disease. like they removed the part of your body that it wasn't functioning, right? So why should you not be having access to a microprocessor knee? You do?
Because it was amputated due to diabetes.
Right, but you fought them. But that's what I'm saying. Why should we have to fight that hard for somebody? No, I understand, and that's the insurance.
Who do we need, how do, we need to go to the congressmen, the senators, and fight.
That's a perfect segue. I love it. I love what you just did, Gabby. I cannot.
Hey, we do have, all right, so we are questions and answers. And so this the reason we're bringing awareness to the loss of limb community.
And we can't just do it in Missouri, we have to do it across the United States. It's not just happening here in Missouri.
I agree. And I think Anthony's gonna segue into a very, here we go.
Yeah.
Hot seat.
So, you got a question? You got a question? Come on with your question, man.
Someone has a really bad one in the middle of the night.
What, a bad movement?
A bad leg or a bad pain in their leg.
I guess that's a question for me. So for myself personally, I get Charlie horses now a lot. So I just kind of kick the residual limb up a screen sometimes, and she be looking at me like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So I don't know if you're talking about to the fact of phantom pain. So I guess every amputee that's in the building could kind of contest the phantom pain. I'm gonna just speak for myself. I don't experience phantom pain as much as I did when I first had an amputation. So just to educate, phantom pain is what you feel like when the residual limb is moved. So basically it feels like that leg is still there. So what they'll tell you to do is don't get up and move, because you can kind of bust over the where you've been amputated at. So I don't know if it answered the question, but it answered. All right.
I think we're gonna schedule your follow-up appointment. We need to talk about those Charlie horses.
When I had phantom pains, I would use a mirror and I'd put it between my leg and look at my good leg and do like exercises.
Yeah, the mirror.
So my bad, it made my bad leg think of my good leg, my leg was there. And it really did work.
We do a lot of that in therapy, so yes.
So do anybody have any more questions or anything that they would like to ask the panel? Go. Wow, looks so good.
I got a challenge for you after this segment. We're gonna run up the steps.
I don't know if I'm gonna run, but I'm gonna do it.
They say what comes down must go up. And I went up the steps and I came all the way down the steps and did not still.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I was just wondering if there's anything like relating to this event that's like new and upcoming in your fields that you're excited about and you would want to share.
Prosthetically,
There is a huge movement going to osseointegration. That is pretty awesome. It's where they surgically connect a rod into the bone, and you no longer have the interface, the socket. The socket is the biggest challenge to fit. You know, you're fitting a dynamic limb in a static socket, right? So osseointegration, I think we'll see it a lot more in the next 5 to 10 years.
I don't know if we're going to say the same thing, but in my clinic, we just got some virtual reality immersive software. And so, I mean, I'm used to doing mirror therapy over the years with a over-the-door mirror or like a rolling mirror. You know, we've tried a lot of different approaches because the concept to make it reliable, to help with the pain for mirror therapy, is to make it believable. And, you know, it's kind of hard to be believable when, you know, your mirror is only so big or so forth. So the VR system comes with a mirror therapy program where it is immersive, it looks very believable, and I'm excited to see how that changes mirror therapy for my patients.
Do I need to answer these questions too? No. So one of the things that I'm looking at working on, and I've been talking to Minion as we was all in the green room, I'm looking to do an amputee live reality TV show here in Missouri. Because, like Gabby said, in order for you to really see our day-to-day life, I'm thinking about we're going to rent a mansion, and we all get to live in one house together. So we can demonstrate cooking, we can demonstrate the daily affairs that we go through, the driving, you know what I mean? All this we got to get back to. I'm a father. I still gotta go to work. My girl don't expect me to do anything different when I go to the grocery store. So we want to really demonstrate and continue to bring awareness to how we live life with no limitations, but it also takes the support team for people to believe in us so we can continue to give hope. So if we do not have any more questions, I'm going to move along and thank the panel for participating today and their time. I know Gabby brought up a great point. And man, my heart was beating fast when I seen my guy walk down the steps. I really want y'all to give a hand. Gabby, you say we need to go and sit, right? I want to be able to do this no other than my man, Senator Brian Williams. I got him in the building with me. Hey man, this is nothing but a pleasure to have the greatest panel. If we gonna go to Senate, you gotta have the man here in the Senate. So we gonna have a voice. If you wanna take your voice from Missouri to Jeff City, I got the man here himself that's gonna thank us for what we doing. I'm gonna try to get him to continue to support what we doing. But what we need you. So man, thank you, Senator, for being here. I'm gonna take my seat in the audience, and man, I'm gonna come back up after you do your thing.
Thank you. I need to bring him on the campaign trail with me now.
Okay, so let's see if this mic's on. I don't really like standing behind podiums, but I'm gonna work with this today. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First, if we can thank our panel again. It was really good to see my friend, Dr. LJ Punch here, former constituent. Really good to see you, as well as Manny Rivera. Thank you for what you've done to contribute to the Loss of Limb community, as well as Stephanie Barjay, Rebecca Nert Flores as well. So thank you all for informing and educating us on the challenges and some of the things we see that impact the loss of limb community. I am not here today to be an expert on loss of limb, but I do think, Ms. Badass, you made a really good point. Our job and my job is to show up and listen and learn and understand exactly what that advocacy looks like. And then we put that into action, whether that's in the form of legislation, whether that's in the form of research and policy, or just gathering with our friends and providing the support that's needed to remind all of us that we need to continue to press forward. So I'm not going to talk much about loss of limb programs and things because we had a distinguished panel that did that, and I think we got our point across. But what I do want to talk about is something that Anthony touched on, and that's hope. How do we understand where we're going if we don't know where we've come from? How do we understand the challenges that impact us if we don't understand how those challenges came before us? Anthony, I want to thank you personally for the work that you're doing. Not only is he leading an organization, AMP Connects, what I love about it is it says Gateway to the Future. And that's a very, very powerful statement. When we met, I was actually visiting the University of Missouri St. Louis, so I was at UMSL, and it was in one of his classes. So not only is this brother leading the way, advocating for the loss of limb community, putting his actions where his words are, but he's continuing to educate himself in the process. So clap it up for Anthony for the efforts that he's taken and what he's done today. As Anthony said, very loud and very clear, and I'm grateful for it. My name is Brian Williams. I represent the 14th Senatorial District. For those that don't know those boundaries, I go roughly from Highway 40 on the south, and then I go north through communities like Clayton, Ladue, University City, Ferguson, where I grew up, right to the Missouri River, to the St. Charles County line, and I cut off at the St. Louis City County line. So that's 40 municipalities, some of the wealthiest communities in the state, some of the more poverty-stricken ones, I like to call it a model for the state because we get a snapshot of the challenges that impact such a diverse population of people. And that's why I was extremely excited to be here with all of you. You know, the question of the day is chaos or community? I repeat, chaos or community? And that's a question that pretty much sums up the past couple of years that we've had to overcome. Clearly on January 6th, we saw chaos. And in the days to come, sometimes I fear that we'll see more. So where do we go from here? You know, as a young man, my mom and my grandmother taught me that if I saw a problem, Anthony, in the world, I had a responsibility to do my part to fix what I could, where I could, the best way I could. So now in the state Senate, I strive to meet that purpose every single day. In the Missouri Capitol, I stand on the shoulders of giants that are continuing to do the good work of those that came before me. So legends like Ted McNeil. Now, Ted McNeil was the first black person elected to the Missouri Senate in 1960. Now, Senator McNeil blazed a trail for others to follow, and others did. In 1962, DeVern Calloway was elected as the first black woman to the Missouri House of Representatives. In 1977, Senator Gwen Giles was Missouri's first black woman to serve in the state Senate. And in the decades that followed, black men and women of all backgrounds continued to serve in both chambers of the Missouri legislature. Now that's community. So I know that when I stand on the floor of the Missouri State Senate, I stand on the shoulders of many, many giants. So I have to stand tall when it comes to addressing the work that we endure. And the ugly truth is, discrimination still exists. And that's something the loss of limb community deals with every single day. And there's still things that we can do. Ms. Badass, elected officials can still work hard to help bend our moral arc towards justice. We need to make sure that we have laws that don't allow folks that are disabled to be discriminated against. We need to make sure that we require sensitivity training and tactics that allow us to provide support to the community. We need to also invest in opportunities, job training for disabled Missourians, mental health services for disabled Missourians, and housing for disabled Missourians. Now, we need to call discrimination out loud and clearly like Anthony did, whether it's in the quiet practices of employment or in the dog whistling rhetoric of what I like to consider dysfunctional and inept leaders. Or as we do, we choose the other side. We choose community instead of chaos. And as we do, we ask ourselves a question that was posed by Dr. King more than 50 years ago. Where do we all go from here? You know, in search of answers, I turn to the words of a famous author named James Baldwin, who said, "Know from whence you came. If you know from whence you came, there are absolutely no limitations to where you can go." I am going to say that again, actually. Know from whence you came. If you know from whence you came, there's absolutely no limitations to where you can go. And that's just as relevant today as it's ever been, even 50 years ago. So, you know, when James Baldwin stood with Dr. King at the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, Dr. King delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. Now, Baldwin knew that to know where we are going, we must know from whence we came. We must know our history in order to build our future. You know, a future where communities, our families, our disabled population, our young people, Our young people have no limitations to where they can go. It reminds us that the journey is not yet done. And that's why I'm here today, to ask the simple question, where do we go from here? I'm grateful for the opportunity to give a couple words. I hope that it was inspirational to remind us that history does repeat itself. But when we ask ourselves the simple question, where do we go from here? It reminds us that every single one of you have no limitation to exactly where you plan to go. Anthony, thank you for the opportunity to be with you all today. Thank you to the Loss of Limb community for your strides and things you do in our community and region. And I'm truly proud to represent every single one of you, especially the younger generation that I see here today in the Missouri Senate. God bless and thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much. Man, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to have the senator come and give us closing remarks. Man, I want to thank the panel for simply, man, for the work that you do as I continue to strive to make a difference in the community. If he didn't leave me with one thing, it's this: chaos over community. Even though it looked like as we go through amputations, we in chaos, but now we're building community. I really want to turn the attention to the sponsors that made this event possible today. I want to thank all our sponsors: Premier Whitehead, St. Louis Public Library, Kitchen 347, UMSL, Sodexo, Cooper's Hawk, and The Shack. Without these sponsors, it would have been impossible for me to be able to provide the food, the water, and anything from the shirts to everything that they have given to us to be able to make this Loss of Limb event possible. Again, I want to thank everybody for the time and coming out to listen to us, to continue to help us bring awareness. I want to turn your attention to one last thing before we leave.
Y'all so happy. That's good.
Also, I just want to give you June 11th, if you're available, we'll do a Loss of Limb barbecue in Forest Park. Again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope you gained something. I hope that we can continue to move forward to make a difference. Y'all have a good one.